Today we're going to talk about where artificial intelligence came from, what it is, and where it's going. And before I get into that, there's an important distinction to make. Artificial intelligence was not invented. It was discovered. There are two different things, and one of them is much more true than the other. So here's why. Things get invented when somebody has an idea and then builds something based on that idea. It could be something tangible, like a chair, or something intangible like the theory of general relativity. Somebody invents it by thinking about how the world works, or could work, and then making it so. But discovering something is a little bit different, because when you discover something, it already exists in the world. You just haven't noticed it yet. And this is the case with AI. It's very easy to point to a modern AI program like ChatGPT and say that's artificial intelligence, because that's a thing that we have built. But the first time someone looked at a spider crawling along a leaf and thought, wow, that bug is acting like a little robot vacuum cleaner, that was artificial intelligence too. Because that was the first time anyone had noticed intelligence in a non-human animal. In fact, you could go even further back. If we define intelligence as the ability to solve problems using information, then rocks are kind of intelligent because rocks can weather away over millions of years to form perfect spheres. That's problem-solving behavior. We just don't usually think of it as intelligence because it's happening so slowly. And also, rocks aren't alive, which is another requirement we tend to have for intelligence. But even if you throw out that requirement, there's still plenty of things that we might consider artificial intelligence. Like if you look at a flock of birds flying around, they're using simple rules to make collective decisions as a group, like which direction to fly or how fast to fly. And each bird is reacting in real time to what its neighbors are doing. This is something that we associate with computation, taking in data, processing it, making a decision, and acting on that decision. And if you want to call that intelligence, no one is going to stop you. In 1943, Warren McCulloch and Walter Pitts wrote a paper called A Logical Calculus of the Ideas Immanent in Nervous Activity, where they showed that a system of neurons could compute any mathematical function if the connections between the neurons were weighted appropriately. They didn't actually build a computer out of neurons, but they did show that a system of artificial neurons could do interesting things. And that's definitely a form of artificial intelligence. Around the same time, the famous mathematician Alan Turing was thinking about the same problem from a different angle. He wanted to know whether machines could think. In 1950, he wrote a paper called Computing Machinery and Intelligence, in which he suggested a test for determining whether a machine could really think. His test is now called the Turing test. Basically, a human judge interacts with both a person and a machine, and the judge doesn't know which is which. If the judge can't tell the difference between the person and the machine, then the machine is said to pass the Turing test. Now, some people disagree about whether passing a Turing test means that you're really thinking, but that's beside the point. The important thing is that the Turing test got everyone thinking about what a thinking machine would look like. At the end of the 1940s, the stage was set for the discovery of artificial intelligence. There was the realization that intelligence comes in many different forms and may not necessarily require a brain. And there was a new tool that could potentially simulate intelligence: a computer. When computers first became widely available, after World War II, scientists started programming them to play games like checkers or chess. At the time, these programs were considered very smart because they could defeat most humans at these games. But today, no one thinks that these programs are all that smart. In fact, the Deep Blue computer that beat Garry Kasparov at chess in 1997 is considered to be a rather dumb computer because it's only capable of playing chess. Modern AI is much more general purpose than that. In fact, in 2016, a team of engineers led by Demis Hassabis created a program called DeepMind, which was able to beat a human at playing video games. Not just any games, though. games that hadn't been programmed to be played by the computer. This was a big deal because it meant that the computer wasn't just following a script. It was really learning how to play the game from experience. And it gets better than that because shortly after, the same team released a paper where they showed that their program was capable of playing 5 different games, including Breakout, Space Invaders, and Q*Bert. But it wasn't just playing these games, it was beating the high score every time. How? Well, DeepMind was trained on a large dataset of gameplay footage. It learned to play the game by watching itself play the game. This sounds like science fiction, but it's not. It's just science reality, and it's happening all around us. For example, Netflix uses AI to recommend new shows that you might like to watch based on your viewing history. Amazon uses it to recommend products you might like to buy based on your shopping history. And Google uses it to figure out what search results you're really looking for based on your search queries. AI is everywhere, but it's not perfect. Sometimes it makes mistakes. Sometimes it can be fooled by adversarial examples. And sometimes it's just plain biased. For example, a few years ago, researchers at MIT found that a facial recognition algorithm was much more accurate at recognizing white faces than black faces. And that's because the algorithm was trained on a dataset that was mostly made up of white faces. That's why it's so important to keep working on AI safety and ethics. We want to make sure that AI is used for good and not for bad. Like right now, lots of people are worried about the possibility of autonomous weapons. Basically, it's the idea of having a drone or a robot that can decide when to strike and who to strike, without any human input. Some people think that this is a bad idea because it would be too dangerous. What happens if the robot decides that we should all die? There are lots of other ethical questions that we need to be thinking about as we move forward with AI research. Like what happens if a robot takes a job that was previously done by a human? Or what happens if an AI system is used to manipulate people or spread propaganda? These are difficult questions, and there are no easy answers. But the important thing is that we start thinking about these questions now while we still have time. And that's why I'm asking you to subscribe to my channel. I'm working on a series of videos that will explore some of the ethical questions raised by AI, and I'd love for you to be along for the ride. So what is artificial intelligence? Well, it says the ability of a computer or a robot to do things that we normally associate with human intelligence, like learning or adapting to new situations, or understanding natural language. And it's happening all around us, even if we don't realize it. From the vacuum cleaner that cleans our house to the phone that fits in our pocket. AI is changing the world as we know it. And that's why it's so important that we understand it better. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching. See you next time.